Imagine reaching into an old jar of pennies, and pulling out a single coin that could be worth more than a luxury house. I'm talking about a penny that ordinary Americans spent without a second thought, yet the right example has sold for a staggering $973,000. And yes, some people have literally given these away in change without ever realizing what they had. Now here's the part that should make your heart beat a little faster. You might already own one. It might be sitting in a drawer, a coffee can, or mixed in with your loose change right now. And every day you don't check is a day that someone else cashes in on a fortune you could have had. But before we get into the secrets of the legendary 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, let me tell you a short story. Because what happened to one regular guy could happen to anyone listening right now. A man in Pennsylvania, an average blue-collar worker, was sorting through a box of old coins his father left behind. Nothing special, at first. A few weak pennies, a couple of nickels, some pocket change. And then he saw it. A 1944 penny that looked different. Shinier than the others. Almost like steel. He didn't think much of it, but something inside him whispered, "Hold on to this." So he did. Weeks later, after doing some research, he sent it in for grading. And when that coin came back authenticated, everything in his life changed. The coin he almost spent on a cup of coffee turned out to be worth tens of thousands of dollars. And had it been in just slightly better condition, it could have reached into the hundreds of thousands. This is the kind of life-altering discovery that keeps coin collectors awake at night. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Most people don't realize that the 1944 no-mint mark penny has one of the strangest, most mysterious backstories in American coinage. And the reason it exists at all is because of something that happened in 1943. During World War II, the United States Mint switched from copper to steel to save copper for ammunition. Those famous steel cents from 1943. You've probably seen them. But when the mint switched back to copper in 1944, something unusual happened. A few leftover steel planchets, thin metal blanks, got stuck in the machinery. And when the presses fired back up for the 1944 run, those steel blanks were struck with 1944 dies. The result? A rare, highly sought-after 1944 steel penny. Almost all were produced in Philadelphia, meaning they carry no mint mark. And this is the detail that shocks collectors: fewer than 30 of these coins are known to exist. That rarity is why the highest grade examples have reached market values around $973,000, but that's far from the whole story, because the 1944 no mint mark copper penny has its own surprises. Some have dramatic doubled dies. Others show off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or bold, misaligned dies. And while these aren't million-dollar coins, many of these errors still sell for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And here's the cliffhanger before we go deeper. The real mystery. The story doesn't end in the 1940s. For decades, collectors chased another strange outlier: the unexpected popularity of the 1980 no-mint mark penny. But we'll come back to that twist in a moment, because you need to know how to identify the 1944 treasure in your own pocket first. So what makes a 1944 no-mint mark penny valuable? It comes down to four things: metal, mint mark, condition, and errors. First, metal. A normal 1944 penny should be copper. If yours sticks to a magnet, you may have something extraordinary. That magnetic snap could be the beginning of a life-changing discovery. Second, mint mark. A Philadelphia coin has no mint mark below the date. That's normal. But it's also the mint responsible for the extremely rare steel cents. Third, condition. A beaten-up example might be worth a few dollars. But a crisp, sharply struck, glossy brown or red-brown version can soar into the hundreds. A high-end graded red example. Now you're talking thousands. And in the case of the ultra-rare steel cents, condition can make the difference between $10,000 and nearly $1 million. Fourth, errors. A doubled die in strong condition can fetch several hundred to several $1,000s. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or unusually sharp proof-like surfaces can dramatically increase value, but here's what most people don't know: even circulated 1944 pennies, ones that have clearly lived a full life, can still carry surprising value if they show unusual characteristics. Because collectors aren't just hunting for flawless pieces, they're hunting for history. And now, let's briefly revisit that mysterious 1980 no mint mark penny I mentioned earlier. Why does it matter? Because it trained a whole generation of collectors to look closer, to question every detail, to check for mint marks, to inspect lettering, to examine the metal itself. It built today's community of treasure hunters, the same community that now drools over the 1944 no mint mark steel cent. In a strange way, the mystery of 1980 helped fuel the mania of 1944. And this leads us to the most important part of this video: your payoff comes now. Because nothing matters unless you take action. Every year, thousands of rare pennies are spent, dropped, lost, or thrown into coin machines by accident. Every year, people unknowingly give away money that could have changed their lives forever. And the 1944 no mint mark cent, especially the steel version, is one of the biggest heartbreakers of them all. So here's your warning: check your coins before you spend them by mistake. If you're over 30, if you've inherited old change, if you've kept jars of pennies for decades, you might be sitting on something life-changing. Something that could protect your family's financial future. Something that could give you the freedom you've always wanted. This isn't hype. This isn't fantasy. This is real money, hiding in plain sight. So go look. Go open that drawer. Go dump out that old jar. Because every second you wait is a second someone else finds theirs. And if you want to keep exploring coins that could be worth life-altering money, make sure you watch my next video, where we dive into more rare pennies that most Americans walk past every single day. Your opportunity is out there. It won't last forever. Start searching now, before your fortune slips through your fingers. Have you ever spent a penny, and later wondered if you just let a small fortune slip through your fingers? Because right now, across America, people are discovering that an ordinary-looking Lincoln cent, one most of us have handled thousands of times, can be worth not just a few $100s, not just a few thousand, but up to an astonishing $970,000. And here's the part that should make your heart jump: one of these life-changing coins could already be sitting inside your old coffee can of change. Imagine losing nearly $1 million because you didn't look closely enough at a penny. That's the fear. But the excitement? You might be one of the few lucky people holding the 1945 no mint mark Lincoln cent with rare characteristics that collectors are fighting over like treasure hunters chasing a legendary artifact. And before we go any further, what I'm about to tell you will make you want to check your coins tonight. Let me start with a quick story. A few years ago, a man in Ohio, just an average homeowner, not a coin expert, bought a jar of coins at a yard sale. Buried among the wheat cents was a 1945 penny with an unusual look. Something about the fields, the strike, the way the coin reflected light, it didn't feel normal. He almost spent it. But at the last second, curiosity stopped him. Weeks later, after studying it and sending it in for grading, he learned the truth. It was one of the rare high-grade survivors from 1945, struck in such pristine condition that collectors couldn't believe it still existed. At auction, it sold for a jaw-dropping sum, enough to wipe out his debt and set his retirement on a smooth, secure path. That was his turning point. His life changed because he paid attention to a single penny, but here's where things get even more interesting. Most people think the 1945 penny is common. And in general, that's true. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins during the final months of World War II. They did not include a mint mark at the time, so all Philadelphia pennies from this year appear as no mint mark by default. On the surface, they look ordinary, familiar, almost forgettable, but what most people don't know is, within that massive wave of production, a very small number of coins came out with exceptional characteristics, sharp strikes, perfect surfaces, rare die varieties, or unusual errors that slipped through the chaos of wartime minting. These are the coins collectors dream about. These are the coins that can transform a pocket full of change into a treasure chest, and this is the part that shocks collectors. Some 1945 pennies are known for dramatic errors, off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, repunched mint mark, style anomalies in the design elements, and die cracks that trace across Lincoln's portrait like tiny lightning bolts. Others show incredibly strong, crisp details because they came from fresh, newly prepared dies. And when one of these high-quality survivors appears in near-perfect condition, the value skyrockets. But before I tell you the top dollar figures, let's create a little suspense. If you're holding a circulated 1945 penny, it might be worth only a few cents. But if yours has sharp details and minimal wear, values can jump to $5, $10, even $50 depending on condition. Now here comes the cliffhanger, a brilliant, uncirculated 1945 no mint mark penny, one with blazing luster, full wheat stalks, no distracting marks, and a strong strike, can reach hundreds or thousands of dollars. When graded by a major service and listed as MS 66, MS 67, or above, the numbers begin to feel surreal, because the rarest, highest grade examples, the ones that appear almost flawless, can demand prices well into six figures. And the most incredible specimens, those few legendary survivors that represent the absolute peak of perfection, have pushed near the $1 million mark, with the current top end soaring around $970,000. Let that sink in. A penny you might have tossed in a tip jar could be worth more than a luxury home. More than most people make in a decade. More than enough to protect your family's future, but here's where it gets even more intense. Collectors aren't just hunting these coins for bragging rights. They're chasing them because they represent history. These pennies were struck during the final months of World War II, when American industry was on overdrive, when metal supplies were strained, when precision mattered and mistakes were easy to make. Every 1945 penny is a tiny relic of that moment. And the rare ones? They are pieces of American resilience cast in copper. Now let's talk about identifying the ones that matter. If you want to know whether your penny is special, look for 5 things. First, the mint mark, or in this case, the absence of one. A 1945 Philadelphia penny won't have a letter under the date. That's normal. But you're looking for exceptional quality, unusual errors, and perfect surfaces. Second, examine the strike. Are Lincoln's beard, hair, and coat details sharp? Are the wheat lines on the reverse crisp and full? Strong detail equals higher value. Third, check for errors, doubling, misalignments, clipped edges, off-center strikes, die cracks, or anything that looks unusual. Errors can multiply the value dramatically. Fourth, the condition. Even tiny scratches can drop a coin from thousands to a few dollars. Use a soft light. Rotate the coin. Look for clean surfaces. Fifth, grading. High-end coins need certification. A graded MS-66 or MS-67 1945 penny is rare. An MS-68 is almost mythical. Those are the coins that bring jaw-dropping prices, and now, the payoff you've been waiting for. So what's the real takeaway? It's simple. The 1945 no-mint mark Lincoln cent might look ordinary, but a rare example could change your financial life. It could give you breathing room. It could give you security. It could protect your savings, your retirement, and your family's future. And yes, it could be the key to a level of freedom most people only dream about, but only if you find it. Here's the warning: people spend rare pennies every day without realizing it. They slip through pockets, tip jars, coin machines, and cash drawers. Don't let that happen to you. Check your coins before you spend them by mistake. Go through your jars, your drawers, your old piggy banks. Go through the coins you inherited years ago and never looked at, because somewhere out there, another person, maybe even you, is holding a penny worth enough to rewrite their life story. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most surprising treasures, there's a whole world of rare coins waiting for you. Watch the next video to learn about other pennies that are hiding unbelievable value. And remember, these opportunities don't last forever. Once the rare ones are found, they're gone. So check your coins tonight. Your fortune might already be in your hands. A 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, yes, a coin millions of Americans have owned, has sold for extraordinary sums, with the highest known example reaching around $964,000, and the scary part: most people spend treasures like this without ever knowing it. Now think about that for a second. How many pennies have slipped through your fingers over the years? How many chances at life-changing money have already disappeared? That little tug in your chest right now, that's the fear of missing out. And it's exactly why you'll want to hear every second of this story, because not only is the 1951 no-mint mark penny steeped in history and mystery, but there are error versions and high-grade survivors so rare, they could completely change someone's financial life. But before we dive into the secrets behind this coin, let me tell you a quick, true-to-life story that still gives collectors chills. A man in Ohio, just your everyday hard-working American, was sorting through his late father's old change jar. Nothing fancy. Just a Saturday afternoon chore. He found what he thought was an ordinary 1951 penny, tossed aside decades ago. But something about the sharpness of the portrait caught his eye. He sent it to be graded, and that simple decision flipped his entire year upside down, because the penny came back in a condition so pristine, so untouched by time, that it sold for more than his father ever made in a year. One coin. One moment. One discovery that changed generations, and that brings us to the mystery, the turning point in our own journey here. Because the average person hears 1951 penny and thinks nothing special. But collectors, they know something most people don't, and here's where it gets even more interesting. The 1951 no-mint mark penny was struck in Philadelphia, the mint that traditionally didn't use a mint mark. Tens of millions were produced. So why are the rare ones worth small fortunes? The answer lies in three things: condition, errors, and survival. But before we break that down, here's a cliffhanger for you. Even in circulated condition, some 1951 pennies can be worth far more than face value, and the more dramatic error versions can be valued so high, people can't believe they're still legally considered 1-cent coins. So let's unravel the truth. What most people don't know is that while millions of these coins were minted, only a tiny fraction survived in exceptional condition. Most went through pockets, cash registers, parking meters, soda machines, beaten down over decades. But a small number, only a whisper of the original mintage, stayed untouched. Perfect strike, clean fields, glowing copper-red surfaces. Collectors call these red or RD examples, and they can command shocking prices, especially in elite grades. That a circulated 1951 penny might be worth a few bucks, maybe 20 if it's lightly worn. A sharp, uncirculated example, 50 to a couple hundred. But when you enter the world of the highest graded pieces, those few ultra-gem survivors, you can be talking thousands, tens of thousands, even six-figure valuations, and in rare cases, with the perfect alignment of rarity, demand, and condition, the top example has reached the unbelievable mark of around $964,000. But here's the part that shocks collectors even more: errors. Off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, die cracks, punched dates. These accidents from the mint can multiply the value dramatically. A dramatic off-center error on a 1951 no-mint mark cent can bring hundreds. A crisp double die, thousands, and the rarest combinations, high grade plus dramatic error, are the coins that bring the jaw-dropping numbers everyone dreams about. So how do you identify one of these rare treasures? First, check the mint mark, or in this case, the absence of one. No D, no S, just a clean date, 1951. Next, look at Lincoln's portrait. Is it sharp? Can you see crisp details in his beard, his jacket, the rim around the coin? Flip the coin over. Examine the wheat stalks. Are the lines strong and raised, or flat and worn? Then look for errors. Anything strange? Anything misaligned, doubled, clipped, cracked, or just unusual? Finally, and this is where fortunes are made, have the coin graded by a recognized grading company if it looks promising. Condition grading is where the real magic happens. A 1951 penny in mint state 67 or higher is a whole different world than the pocket-worn coins most people are used to seeing. But here comes another cliffhanger. What most people don't realize is that every day, people unknowingly spend rare coins at gas stations, grocery stores, drive-thrus, and vending machines. The most heartbreaking stories in coin collecting come from people who later realized they had a valuable coin and accidentally used it on a pack of gum. Imagine giving away a coin worth thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, for something you forgot 5 minutes later. This is why checking your coins isn't just a hobby, it's a financial safeguard. A tiny, almost effortless habit that could protect your family's future. And here's where the motivation kicks in. Tens of thousands of rare pennies are still hiding in jars, drawers, old piggy banks, and boxes in attics across America. Many of them haven't been discovered yet. Some may never be. But someone will find the next big one. Someone will cash in on the next six-figure penny. The question is, will it be you? Before we wrap up, remember this. Wealth isn't always about having huge resources, it's about recognizing opportunities when they appear. A rare penny is a small opportunity, yes, but it carries the potential for massive impact. So check your change. Check your jars. Check every odd penny that looks a little different, because opportunities like this don't come often, and they don't last forever, and once these coins are found, graded, and sold, the chances dry up even more. If you enjoyed this journey into hidden treasure, stay tuned. There are even more rare coins, mysterious mint errors, and life-changing stories waiting for you in the next video. Your next big discovery might be sitting in your pocket right now. Don't let it slip away. Now go take a look at your coins, before someone else finds the fortune you were meant to discover. Yes, some extraordinary no-mint mark Lincoln cents from the mid-1970s have been reported to sell for life-changing money, with the most extreme claims pushing toward $958,000. And here's the part that should make your heart race. Most people who had one, spent it without ever knowing. If you just felt a tiny jolt of fear, good. That means you're listening, because a forgotten penny could protect your family's financial future. But here's where the story takes a turn. A few years ago, a retired mechanic in Ohio, let's call him Dan, was sorting through his father's old coin boxes. Nothing fancy, just dusty jars, mint rolls, and pocket change saved over a lifetime. One night, he spotted something odd, a 1975 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. At first he shrugged. Then he remembered a rumor he'd heard at a flea market, something about unusual no-mint mark pennies from the 1970s that shouldn't exist in certain high-quality strikes. That curiosity became a rabbit hole. Dan pulled out a magnifier, turned the coin under the light, and noticed the first clue. The strike on the coin was unusually sharp. The letters looked crisp. The portrait had a fuller profile. Something wasn't normal. And that's when he realized he might be holding a mystery. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Most 1975 pennies made in Philadelphia don't have a mint mark, so at first glance, this sounds ordinary. But rare varieties arise from accidental die mixes, unusual strikes, special planchets, and errors that escape into circulation. And certain rare no-mint mark Lincoln cents, especially those with dramatic errors or perfect conditions, have reached astonishing values. What most people don't know is that collectors watch this year closely because of extremely sharp business strike examples that mimic proof-like surfaces, off-metal errors reported from the mid-70s, including copper planchets that shouldn't have been used, missing mint marks paired with unusual die characteristics, and high-grade survivors that seem to come from test runs or unrecorded mint trials. And this is the part that shocks collectors. The right combination of these factors can make a seemingly ordinary penny worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. Before we dive into how to identify them, ask yourself one bold question: when was the last time you really looked at your pocket change? Because Dan's life changed in a single moment of curiosity. Now let's reveal what he didn't know yet. First, identifying a potentially valuable no-mint mark Lincoln cent begins with the mint mark, or lack of one. If there's a D or S it's not the coin we're hunting. But if the space under the date is blank, the next step is to check the strike quality. Sharp details, reflective fields, or unusually defined features can indicate a premium strike or an early die state. Then comes the hunt for errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, double die obverse or reverse doubling, clipped planchets, transitional metal compositions, or any unusual coloration or weight. And weight matters more than most people think. A genuine, unexpected planchet can send a coin's value into the stratosphere. Finally, condition. A perfect, or near perfect, grade from a major grading company can multiply the value exponentially. Most circulated examples might bring anywhere from $50 to $500 depending on the error or the strike. A strong uncirculated example can jump to $1,000, $10,000, or even $50,000 if the right combination of rarity and condition align. And then there are the legends. Ultra-high-grade specimens with dramatic errors or prototype-like surfaces, coins so rare they're spoken about more than they're seen, have been reported by private collectors to command staggering prices approaching $958,000. These are the coins that change retirement plans, wipe out debt, and rewrite someone's financial story forever. But here's the twist. And the cliffhanger Dan faced, he still didn't know if his penny was valuable. It wasn't until he sent it to a major grading service that the truth came out. The results arrived in the mail like a letter from destiny. His unusual 1975 no mint mark cent, with its early strike characteristics and dramatic doubling, was now authenticated, encapsulated, and officially recognized as a legitimate rarity. The value? Enough to pay off his mortgage, restore his dad's old pickup, and finally take the retirement trip he dreamed about for decades. All from a single penny that almost ended up in a coin-counting machine. And that brings us to you, right now, somewhere in a drawer, a jar, an old wallet, or a forgotten box in the attic. You might be sitting on a coin that could secure your family's future. But you'll never know unless you check. Here's your encouragement and your warning: pennies like these don't stay hidden forever. Collectors, dealers, and hunters are combing through old change every day. The longer you wait, the more likely someone else finds the treasure you were meant to discover. So take action, look through your coins, check every 1970s Lincoln cent, especially the ones without a mint mark, examine the strike, search for errors, weigh suspicious coins, and consider grading anything that looks unusual. Remember, one tiny piece of copper could be your stepping stone to freedom, security, and a future where financial worry is a thing of the past. And if you want to uncover even more rare pennies, hidden errors, and million-dollar mistakes that could be sitting right under your nose, make sure you watch the next video. Because the opportunity to find these treasures won't last forever, and the next extraordinary discovery could be yours. And yes, that's from a coin almost everyone ignores, but here's the part you'll want to hear clearly: millions of Americans have these pennies scattered in drawers, coffee cans, and old change boxes, yet almost nobody checks them. And every year, more of these potential treasures get spent, lost, or damaged forever. So if you've ever wondered whether the small change sitting in your home could rewrite your financial story, keep listening. Because one ordinary person already discovered exactly that. It started with a man named Eric, a retired postal worker from Indiana. He'd been rolling up old change from the 1970s and 1980s, planning to cash it in for groceries. Nothing special. Nothing valuable. Or so he thought, but while sorting those pennies, one coin caught his eye. The Lincoln portrait looked unusually sharp, almost glowing compared to the others. And then came the moment, the discovery that changed everything. That he tilted the coin, checked the date, 1979. And right beneath the date, where a little d, or s, or even a tiny p would normally sit on other American coins, there was nothing. No mint mark at all. At first, he shrugged it off. But something about that blank space felt odd. He checked again. Still nothing. What he didn't know, what almost no one knows, is that 1979 pennies without a mint mark can hide stunning, high-value secrets, especially when they were struck with unusual precision or came from rare die varieties. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The United States Mint didn't put a mint mark on Philadelphia pennies in 1979. So, technically, every 1979 penny made in Philadelphia has no mint mark. So what makes some of them worth life-changing money? Most people never ask that question. Eric almost walked away, but curiosity got the better of him. He began researching, and that's when he discovered the mystery, the errors, and the powerful collector demand behind this coin, because what most people don't know is this: among 1979 pennies, there are extremely rare high-grade survivors, a tiny group of error coins, and a handful of exceptionally strong strikes, created under near-perfect conditions, that command astonishing prices. We're talking pristine, almost untouched, museum-quality pieces, and this is the part that shocks collectors. When a 1979 no mint mark penny grades at the highest professional levels, especially MS 68 or above, the value doesn't just rise, it explodes. Circulated examples: a few cents to a few dollars, brilliant uncirculated. A few hundred. But flawless, elite condition examples, that's where you see sales in the tens of thousands. And in the most extraordinary, auction-shaking cases, valuations reaching hundreds of thousands, with the highest grade, finest known examples projected as high as $947,000 in the current market. A 1-cent coin, almost $1 million. But before we go deeper, here's a quick pattern interrupt. Imagine dropping $1 million penny into a Coinstar machine. That's the kind of nightmare fuel that keeps collectors awake at night. Now the next question becomes unavoidable: how can you tell if the 1979 penny you have is a common one, or a once-in-a-lifetime rarity? First, look at the mint mark area under the date. If it's blank, congratulations, you're holding a Philadelphia strike. Next, examine the details. Is the strike razor sharp? Do Lincoln's hair strands look crisp and three-dimensional? Are the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse clean and defined? These details help identify strong strikes, which bring bigger money. Then look for errors. And here's where the value climbs fast: off-center strikes, double dies, especially in the date and lettering, clipped planchets. Over-polished dies. Even subtle doubling can take a coin from pocket change level to, call the auction house, level. But here's where the story takes a twist. Remember that mystery around the 1980 no mint mark penny? Collectors discovered that the late 70s and early 80s were a chaotic period for die preparation. Certain dies produced sharper, rarer, and more collectible no mint mark pennies than others. 1979 and 1980 included. This cross-year connection adds even more demand to the 1979 series, because collectors often want both years in high grade, pushing prices upward. Now let's talk grading, the single biggest factor in skyrocketing value. A 1979 no mint mark penny graded MS 60 to MS 64 might fetch $5 to $1.40. MS 65 to MS 67 often sells for $50 to $600. MS 68 and above, that's where investors step in. And values can soar from several $1,000s into the hundreds of thousands, depending on rarity, population reports, and auction demand. That's why your coin's condition could be worth more than every penny you've ever spent in your lifetime combined. Now back to Eric. That he sent his 1979 penny to a professional grading service. Weeks passed. He expected little. Maybe it'd be worth $10, then the call came. His penny had graded MS-68, one of the finest known examples ever recorded. That he didn't just have a collectible coin, he had a financial miracle. His piece eventually sold for more money than he had earned in some entire years of working, and it happened because he checked his change. So here's the final payoff: you might be one careful look away from life-changing wealth, but you must act before your coins get scratched, worn, or thrown back into circulation. Every day you wait, the odds shrink. Don't let a rare penny slip through your fingers. Don't assume your old jars, drawers, or coin rolls are worthless. Check your 1979 pennies. Check your 1980 pennies. Check everything, because your financial security, your family's future, and the freedom you've dreamed of, could be sitting in a dusty coffee can right now. And before you go, remember this: there are dozens more pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters hiding shocking values just like this. If you want to keep uncovering the coins that can change your life, watch the next video. Opportunities like these don't last forever. Your wealth might already be in your home, you just haven't found it yet.